Welcome back. Nestlé's practices in poorer countries are under scrutiny, under fire, as the company is accused of adding sugar and honey to infant products despite healthier versions sold elsewhere. Now, Public Eye's investigation has revealed shocking disparities with products in Senegal and South Africa containing high sugar levels which don't appear in countries like Switzerland. Now, these practices have been blamed on rising obesity rates among children. For more on this, we're joined this afternoon by Manuel Abebe, who is a researcher at Public Eye, and he joins us from Zurich this afternoon, and Angelika Grimbeek, who is a policy and program manager at Heala. Excuse me. Just some background for you. Heala is a coalition of civil society organizations that advocates for equitable access to affordable and nutritional food for all South Africans. To both of our guests, thanks very much indeed for coming on. Manuel, I want to begin with you because really the press release from Public Eye, the first line sums up the issue at hand this afternoon. Two of the best-selling baby food brands marketed by Nestlé in low and middle-income countries contain high levels of sugar, while the same products are sugar-free in its home country in Switzerland.
Exactly. So what we looked at is these two big brands. It's probably for most of your viewers, it's Cerelac and Nido. So Cerelac, the baby cereals, and Nido, the so-called growing up milk. So these are really household names for many of your viewers. And what we found is that especially in lower and middle income countries, these kinds of products just contain high levels of added sugar, whereas if you compare it to the same product sold in Europe or in Switzerland in particular, just to give one example, the Cerelac with biscuit flavor, which is sold in South Africa with 6 grams of added sugar per serving, is sold without any added sugar in Switzerland. And that's a pattern we've seen across all products that or basically all products that we've compared between the different markets. And
you came to these conclusions after you first tried to analyze the labeling, but you also sent these products for laboratory testing. And the fact of, something that we need to really point out, Manuel, is the fact that you're talking about 6 grams of added sugar per serving. This is not 6 grams of sugar in the entire box or container of Nido or Cerelac. It's per serving.
Exactly, it's per serving, and it's also for babies which are just 6 months old. So if you follow the instructions and then give 2 servings per day to your 6-month-old baby, we're really talking about large quantities of added sugar. And whereas, and maybe Angelika can also tell something about that, but WHO itself, so the World Health Organization, says that there is no room for any added sugar in infant food for children up to 3 years of age.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the advice all of us are given up until the age of 2. No added sugar or salt in the food or drinks of developing children. Angelika, this is something that Heala has been campaigning on for some time, this issue of better managing sugar. I mean, did we think that it would get to where we would actually have to police what we're putting into our children's bodies as young as 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely shocking what this report has found. And it's just, it's great that Public Eye has been able to expose this because, as you mentioned, I mean, Heala has often spoken about how added sugar is leading to obesity in South Africa, whether it be from children's age, whether it be with adults. And we know that in South Africa, obesity is really rife in our country. I mean, with just our children under 5s, 1 in 8 children are already overweight or obese. And this is a huge issue. And to say that now, or to see that now that Nestlé has used these tactics and that they're adding sugar to formula products and milks that are aimed at 6-month-olds. I mean, those are little babies. To be violating little babies' health and rights and everything just to make more profit and really try and create a consumer from a 6-month-old is absolutely shocking.
So
this report has really no, it's been disappointing to see. I mean, it just reinforces the need for regulation in our country that can actually really start protecting children, protecting what is seen as a consumer to to Nestlé and other food and beverage industry partners.
So what do you make of this, Angelika? Do you think it's being used as a bulking agent to try and put less of the actual product into a tub or into a box? Because, I mean, the average cube of sugar weighs, what, 3 to 5 grams? So the more sugar we put in, the less of the product we actually put in?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that this is just one of many ways that Nestlé and other companies really actually try and create consumers from a young age. Their main drive is profits. They don't care about public health. They might have logos like good health or good nutrition, good life, but really, I mean, we know the bottom line is that they are a business and they are trying to make money. So if they can get little 6-month-olds hooked on sugar from such a young age, and I mean, we mustn't forget that Nestlé, they have a huge product range that doesn't stop at infant formulas and at baby foods. It carries on into chocolates, lots of sweet treats, lots of adult foods that are so high in added sugar as well. So if they can hook children on these sweet tastes and this craving for sugar from such a young age, they've got lifelong consumers, which is absolutely shocking.
I mean, we've reached out to Nestlé. Manuel, before you answer, we have reached out to Nestlé, and in what is seen as a cop-out in our industry, they've sent a statement instead of making the decision to be part of this discussion. Of course, the statement means we can't question them or grill them on any of the things they're saying. But the statement says that essentially they uphold regulations that are in accordance with health guidelines internationally. There are certain requirements, particularly regarding carb content, which encompasses sugar, and they have full transparency with their consumers. Manuel, what do you make of that kind of statement from Nestlé?
Well, they're making reference to a certain body of international standards that have been repeatedly also criticized by the World Health Organization itself. So just to give you an understanding of these standards they're referring to, these are standards that would allow for Cerelac to be made up to 20% of sugar. Wow. So these are really standards that don't fulfill any meaningful definition of healthfulness. But just to also speak to Angelika's statement of marketing. So what we've seen, and it's also been described by experts as a sort of cradle to grave marketing strategy employed by Nestlé. So you start at 6 months old and you try to build a consumer for life. And we've also seen very, very targeted advertisements by Nestlé. So there is an international code that would be against these kinds of advertisements, but it's a daily habit of Nestlé to violate this international code. And so for example, you see influencers, you see health professionals making claims, you see Nestlé making health claims such as brain development or immunity that should be strengthened by these products. And all the while, the same product contains 1.5 teaspoons of sugar per serving.
Wow. Angelika, why poorer nations? And why not, for example, where their head office is, Switzerland?
I think at the end of the day, these big companies like Nestlé, they've already reached market saturation in these other countries. And they're coming to poorer nations where it is a new developing market. They can actually then exploit that. And I mean, this really just, I mean, exactly what Manuel just mentioned, the way that there's so many different types of marketing techniques that are used, it's really, this report is just showing the tip of the iceberg of how they exploit these nations. They take the profits overseas, everything. And it's something that we really need to, as a country, really start fighting, that we have to have these corporations and these industries regulated very strongly.
And I mean,
but there's, in South Africa, we've got the R991, which really does already have strict guidelines of how products can be marketed, especially for infants and young children. And I mean, these companies know these regulations backwards, so they find legal tactics to use. And it's just we need to get more regulations in place to be able to stop this, whether it's now this front of package warning labels that the Department of Health is also recommending, that's going to be implemented in the next few years, where it really will show on a packaged food that this food is actually high in added sugar and it is high in added nutrients of consumption. We should actually be aware of as consumers, especially as caregivers, as mothers, as parents, that we need to make convenient decisions sometimes. And if there is this added sugar and this danger that this added sugar gives to a child's health, we need to be warned against this. We need to have strict
Yeah,
in place.
absolutely. Angelika Grimbeek is the Policy and Program Manager from Heala. Manuel Abebe is a researcher at Public Eye. He joins us from Zurich this afternoon. A damning report about Nestlé adding sugar to baby food in South Africa and in poorer nations.